And kick it off, Councilmember Favor, if you're okay. All right, and I see we have Councilmember Dorns as well. So, good morning, everyone. Over the past 12 months, this pandemic has squeezed workers and families. Almost 30% of workers making under $30,000 lost their jobs in Franklin County. Fewer new jobs are being posted, and small business revenue is down more than 25%. As has been said over and over again, this pandemic has further exacerbated the economic pressures already facing families in our community. This is especially true when it comes to the housing crisis. We've heard over the past several years how our region needs to more than double housing production in order to keep up with population growth. This growing demand is tied to increasing prices, making it harder for working folks to thrive. That's why municipalities, private sector partners, leading nonprofits from across the region have come together to develop the regional housing strategy. In that strategy, we called out the need to protect renters. Councilmember Favor's legislative package makes good on that commitment for the city of Columbus. As we continue to develop more housing, especially more affordable housing, we must also act to protect renters today. I can tell you personally about the calls my office has received, folks facing eviction who don't have the documentation that they paid their rent, folks who can't get an apartment because they're paying with a housing voucher. As we expect more vouchers to become available this year, legislation to ensure our renters are protected is more important now than ever. I am so excited for Councilmember Favor to be leading this effort. She has been deliberative and thoughtful, engaging with affordable housing advocates, landlords, and more. She has led a thorough process, and I'm excited to support this legislation this evening. I want to quickly, I know she will do this too, but recognize our other colleagues who have joined us for this press conference, Councilmember Tyson and Councilmember Dorns, as well as the hosts of our other council members and the support team or our partners who will help bring this legislation to life. So with that, again, I'm so appreciative of this process that Councilmember, our chair of housing, has led, and I'm very proud of the legislation that she will talk about today. With that, Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Council President Hardin, and good morning to everyone joining us today. I am pleased to be here to talk more about the Housing for All legislative package that Council will vote on at tonight's meeting. As you heard from Council President just a few moments ago, the City of Columbus is at a pivotal moment in our housing crisis. We've talked many times before about our growing population and the shortage of available housing units to meet the high demand. We've also discussed our eviction problem, in which Franklin County ranks amongst the highest in the nation. Despite these challenges, the city and our many housing partners have done significant work over the past several months to keep families stabilized and housing secure throughout the pandemic. Whether it has been working with developers to find creative ways to build more affordable units, or providing financial support to our nonprofit partners to run tenant-based rental assistance programs. We are making some strides in housing, but I know that we have so much more work to do. And that's why I'm proud today to announce the Housing for All legislative package. These policies are intended to address housing insecurity for some of the most vulnerable in our community, specifically low-income households and households of color. Since October, my staff and I have worked closely with our housing community, including landlords, tenants, nonprofits, and residents to discuss source of income discrimination, renter's choice, and rental receipt. We've held 2 public hearings, worked through multiple draft ordinances, and prioritized the feedback from all stakeholders throughout this process. I'm proud of the work we are putting forward today and truly believe these measures will make a difference for tenants seeking stable housing. The first ordinance we have is rental receipt. This policy simply requires that a landlord provide a tenant with a receipt following the payment of rent. Many of our landlords already implement this practice, particularly for tenants that pay through electronic methods. However, this piece particularly targets those that pay rent in cash or with a money order. A number of low-income tenants are unbanked and without access to electronic payment methods, and this policy provides a protection for them when they are required to prove that their rent was paid on time. We are familiar with stories from our partners that assist in mediation at eviction court that some tenants are unable to show that rent was paid. This policy will ultimately protect both tenants and landlords in this scenario. The next ordinance is renter's choice. The security deposit can be another barrier to achieving affordable housing, particularly because of high upfront move-in costs. With nearly 50% of Americans without $400 in savings for an emergency, the ability to rapidly rehouse is a financial difficulty. The renter's choice legislation provides choice and optionality for tenants by allowing them to choose to pay their security deposit in full, in installments over 6 months, or installments over 3 months. This legislation does not prohibit landlords and tenants from working together to decide on security deposit alternatives, such as insurance or other products. The final ordinance that Council will consider tonight is source of income discrimination. Source of income discrimination occurs when a landlord refuses to rent a unit to a prospective tenant based on their source of income. Some landlords advertise rentals with no housing choice vouchers or no Section 8 to avoid renting to tenants utilizing vouchers. The source of income legislation establishes protections for tenants in this space, making it illegal to discriminate against a tenant solely on their source of income in the city of Columbus. Although other sources of income can include child support, alimony, Social Security benefits, disability, and many other categories, we know that this conversation has centered around the Housing Choice Voucher program. Last year, Columbus City Council declared racism as a public health crisis. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate my colleague, Councilmember Tyson, for leading that charge on behalf of this body. It is now our responsibility to combat racism through policy. Source of income discrimination is a proxy for race discrimination, with over 58% of the households using vouchers in Columbus being Black. A study by the Fair Housing Center in Cuyahoga County found that landlords who put no Section 8 in rental ads are more likely to discriminate based on race. We have to do more to protect every resident in our city, especially to those households of color subject to greater discrimination. This ordinance is designed to open up the doors to affordable housing for everyone in our city. I also like to take this moment to highlight the important work of the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, who manages the Housing Choice Voucher program. They have been a great partner in our efforts over the last few months to help us understand exactly how the program works and what landlords who might be new to this process can expect. With that, I'd like to introduce Scott Scharlach with CMHA. Scott, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everybody. And I would like to start off by thanking Council President Hardin and Councilmember Favor for including the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority in this very important announcement today. I want to thank you both for your efforts in drafting and developing legislation to help bring fair and equitable housing to the city of Columbus. For those who don't know me, I am Scott Scharlach, and I have the privilege of serving as the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority's Chief Operating Officer. And we support this legislation, and we believe that will expand and promote fair housing in our neighborhoods. The source of someone's income should not dictate where someone can and can't live. CMHA currently funds over 12,500 housing choice vouchers in the city of Columbus and Franklin County. And in this year alone, we have the unique opportunity to issue at least an additional 1,000 vouchers into our community for residents in need by the end of the year. We provide over $8 million in rental subsidy to over 3,000 unique landlords in the private market every single month. These landlords help CMHA provide quality, needed, affordable housing options to our residents. And we are always looking to partner with new housing providers and landlords in our programs. As you all know, there is a shortage of affordable housing in our community. This legislation can help ease that burden. Oftentimes, the source of one's income can prevent a resident from moving into a particular neighborhood or community. And as one of the nation's leading housing authorities and a developer of affordable housing in Central Ohio, we believe people should be able to choose the neighborhood they want to live in. Whether it is to provide for a new job opportunity, whether it is a residence closer to a family member in need, or whether it may be a home in a location close to medical facilities that one must often frequent. We believe it is only equitable for people to choose where they want to live. We also believe that this legislation can help them on their personal journeys to self-sufficiency. I also wanted to let you know this morning that the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority is working diligently to encourage more landlords to participate in our programs. And one of the approaches that we are employing is to offer incentives both to landlords and residents to help with upfront cost of working with our housing programs. These incentives may include security deposit assistance for residents and landlord vacancy payments for landlords when they rent up a new unit in our program. As I mentioned, we are always looking for new landlords to partner with, and this ultimately gives those landlords a larger pool of tenants to choose from. So again, I would like to thank Council President Hardin and Councilmember Favor for inviting us to be a part of this discussion, and we look forward to seeing the benefits of this legislation throughout our community in Central Ohio. And with that said, I would like to hand it back over to you, Councilmember Favor, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Scott. I understand that these changes might be difficult for some, but we are truly at a critical point where we must do things differently in order to improve them. We will do everything we can to educate the landlord and tenant community on these changes and provide the right to support to ensure the policies are followed in the correct manner. However, there will be some consequences for those who violate the new rules. We have to take these matters seriously, and we will work to investigate those scenarios in which complaints are recorded. The City of Columbus is proud to contract with the Columbus Urban League on fair housing, and they will also assist with these new policies. With that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Melinda Carter with the Columbus Urban League. Ms. Carter, the floor is yours.
I have to.
We can hear you now.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm known for that. Thank you very much, Councilmember Favor, for allowing us to be a part of this wonderful program. I applaud your work in this area and allowing us to be a part of it. The Urban League, as a result of your efforts and others, have been able to serve over 550 families, or nearly 550 families, facing eviction this year. Our housing program has done a lot of work during the COVID time, which has been very much needed. So we appreciate the efforts to expand the opportunity. Of course, we are the fair housing contractor for the city. We're very adamant and we're very adamant about insisting that fair housing is a right of all of our citizens, and we look forward to the implementation of that program. And fair housing goes hand in hand, as I've shared with our team, hand in hand with the idea of accessibility. You have to have fair housing; it has to be accessible. Those two things working in concert, and this effort allows us to make good on that promise to the people we serve. Again, we've been able to serve people continuously during the pandemic, making sure that our CUO clients, current and future, are able to stay in their homes to make sure their family is stable, their children are stable, and they are able to be a viable part of our community. So again, housing has become central to our operation at Urban League. Not that it wasn't before the Columbus Urban League, but certainly in the pandemic times, realizing that where you live and how you live is a big part of your well-being, mentally, physically, and then financially. So again, we welcome the opportunity to continue our work with the city and with Councilmember Favor in this effort. I applaud our team, Monica Womack, who's our AVP, Rhonda Gaines, who's our FES manager, as well as the rest of council who's been so committed, Council President Hardin and others. I see Councilmember Tyson and Dorans on here as well. But we really appreciate it and look forward to strengthening our community and strengthening our relationship and strengthening the confidence that you have in us as a partner and providing these very, very critical services to our community. So again, thank you very much on behalf of our clients, our staff, and the community. And President Hightower, who could not be here today, but so wanted to. She's been all over the place with respect to the pandemic, and this is a passion of hers. So just wanted to express that and thank you all.
Thank you, Vice President Carter, for being here today and for the Columbus Urban League's critical work in this space. As I mentioned briefly, our next steps will be to embark in a community education process following passage of the legislation. We will work with nonprofit partners in the community to provide education to our landlords and tenants on the new pieces of legislation and what that means. The legislation is slated to go into effect on July 1st of 2021. With that, I will turn it back over to Council President Hardin for any additional comments, or perhaps to my colleagues if they'd like to make any at this time. All right, I'm getting the go-ahead. And so with that, there will be some more discussion following these ordinances at tonight's meeting, but I'd be happy to open things up for any questions if there are any from anyone in attendance. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank and acknowledge Laura Baker Morris, who is also on with us this afternoon from the Columbus City Attorney's Office, who we could not have gotten this far without her constant support and editing as we continue to triage through multiple versions of the legislation. So thank you for that. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today for this announcement. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my team for the countless hours we've all spent over the past several months working on this legislation. To Tynesha Hardin, Anissa Lieben, and Andrew Dyer, thank you for all of your hard work and your commitment to the Housing for All vision. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to tonight's evening to discuss this legislation more. Thank you, and that concludes today's press conference.